Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Gargoyles episode review. Today we're looking at Deadly Force. After battling Demona's spells last week, we're into mundane territory today. Don't think we're getting a break, though. The third episode of the trio's triptych belongs to Broadway. We meet a new antagonist and see just how manipulative one of our favorite antags can be. Not all the protag's troubles come from the villains, though. Elisa fights for her life thanks to Broadway's mistake. Will he step up and take responsibility for his actions, or let the new antagonist take the blame? This is a unique episode, one that Toon Disney actually banned. As usual, spoilers in the 2020 moments. Info from Ask Greg is in the According to Greg bits. Season 1, Episode 8, Deadly Force, Reasons for Existence, to give us more insight into Broadway's character, to explore the theme of repercussions, to teach respect for guns, to reveal more about Owen's capabilities. Main antagonists, Tony Dracon and Company. Times, November 18th and 19th, 1994. Locations, New York City, New York, USA. Deadly Force, written by Michael Reeves, so you know it's going to be a good episode. Wonder where the ship's port of origin was. Prologue. When I began watching Gargoyles, it was only on Toon Disney. The first time through the series, I watched Temptation. Then, the next night, I happily tuned into Enter Macbeth. I didn't know the episode lineup, but the previously on Gargoyles in Enter Macbeth left me scratching my head. A crap ton of serious business went down in that episode before Enter. Yet, that episode was not Temptation. Okay, thought I. Maybe it's just a scheduling error. Channels do that sometimes. I'll catch it next time around. Next time around. Same deal. What the heck? I did some digging later and discovered Toon Disney, in its infinite wisdom, decided that the very same viewers who could handle seeing gargoyles get pulverized in their sleep, magic destroy its users, and generally more adult-level concepts and themes than your average adult drama series, couldn't handle Deadly Force. After Gargoyles went off the air in my teens, I took a Garg hiatus. Yes, I had the VHS recordings, but I was a little busy with college and all. In my mid-20s, I ponied up and bought the DVD collection. It was thrilling to submerge in the sea of nostalgia. Then I realized, with a tsunami of excitement, that I would finally be able to see the episode that time forgot. It was like someone let me into the government vault in Indiana Jones, the one with the Ark of the Covenant and all other manner of legendary treasures. At last, the lost episode. I watched it with bated breath, heart aflutter. To my unending joy, Owen played a major role in the plot. He was even more awesome than usual. It was a shame Xanatos wasn't in it, but he was mentioned, and I will always complain when he isn't present. It's a fan thing. If you haven't seen it, get the DVDs. This episode is a treasure. Army of One. We're out at the harbor on the docks. There's a ship unloading metal cargo containers that bear the X of Xanatos Enterprises. It must be an important shipment because Owen Burnett is personally overseeing the transfer. At his side is Bruno, in a normal security uniform, not armor. He's toting a rifle. I like seeing Owen in other capabilities beside personal assistant. According to Greg, putting Bruno in here and having Jeff Bennett talk to himself was intentional. The writers wanted to show that the commandos were regular Xanatos Enterprise security forces on a special mission. Okay, honestly, until I read that, I didn't know that that was supposed to be Bruno. Also, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that Xanatos would use regular security troops to basically implement his plan to get the Gargoyles on board with stealing the discs, because it all hinged on them believing that the commandos had stolen the discs from Xanatos. Also, those commandos did a really good job. They put up a very good fight, and I don't think just regular employees would be able to do that unless they were from like Spec Ops, or at least very well trained in the military. So I don't really understand the point of that, why they even bothered with that. Anyway, moving on. Bruno remarks that Owen's concerns about security were unnecessary. Owen, however, trusts his instincts and keeps his guard up. He is, after all, head of security. What's the insignia on Bruno's patch? See, there's another thing that I don't really understand then. If that's Bruno and he's supposed to be regular Xanatos Enterprises security, why isn't he having like wearing an X or at least some sort of insignia, unless the security branch has a different logo, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Every security guard that I've seen has something that identifies them as working for the particular institution that they're guarding. Otherwise, it could just be some random guy in a costume. No sooner does Bruno jinx them than a truck full of guys in gas masks screams up. Gas masks means incoming tear gas. While everybody hacks up their lungs, the marauders take off with a truck of crates from the shipment. Now, we know for sure whatever's in those containers is important. Aw, crap. Got gas canisters hitting the ground in front of everybody. Owen is having none of it. He grabs the nearest enemy, wrenches the guy's arm around, and rips the gas mask off. Note, none of the security forces, the very ones who were selected for the commando job, are doing a thing. Bruno makes a vague attempt but fails. There he is with that rifle. 2 seconds later, a guy knocks him down. Where's the mad skills go? Is it only when you wear the magic commando armor? Owen, the man in glasses and the suit, the man we viewers have up to this point have written off as another Waylon Smithers, is showing he's ready, willing, and able to get his hands dirty. There he is, about to pull the gas mask off of that thug. I love the reflection. You can see he's just in the zone. Owen is happy to use the resources on hand. Despite his efforts, the truck pulls away before he can reach it. We haven't seen much emotion from Mr. Stoicism up to this point. Now, however, he is 100% pissed off. I have no doubt he'd make the thieves pay painfully and slowly if he could get his hands on them. I'm sensing he's not one to mess with. Who needs weapons when you have a glare like that? Definitely one of his more penetrating glares. 2020 moment. Holy heck, is Owen not one to mess with. He'll take the direct, lethal route every time. He, not Xanatos, is the one who wants to destroy the Gargoyles. He has the skills to take them on in a face-to-face altercation, too, and he's quite happy to draw a weapon, which he can handle like a pro. Nothing phases him either. Even in the face of his boss's fiancée turning into a werefox, he executes his duty. He's the kind of person you want backing you up. I totally see why Xanatos chose a lifetime of service from him over a dangerous and possibly life-wrecking wish from the Puck. Who's the daring rogue who made off with Xanatos' property? Who dares to court the wrath of the richest man around? Some guy with black hair and an annoying laugh. And is this the new villain antagonist for the Gargs? Since he's stealing Xanatos' stuff, he's an antagonist to David, but that doesn't mean he's also against the Gargoyles, or even that he's against good, in caps. He loves his work. There he is, laughing as the sun goes down. Run and gun. At the castle, the sun has set. Broadway is off to the movies. There's a western he's obsessed with, The Showdown. It's a takeoff on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Clint Eastwood stars. Okay, maybe I'm making that up. And there's a black and white picture from the movie. Sure looks like Clint Eastwood. Hudson remarks that with all the fantasy in TV and video games, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. I thought we covered this theme in Thrill of the Hunt. Speaking of weapons, Elisa is demanding Maria Chavez, her captain, get a warrant for Tony Dracon. Elisa believes he stole Xanatos' shipment of, quote, non-projectile weapon prototypes, unquote. According to Greg, Elisa's last name was supposed to be Chavez originally. There she is, getting in Chavez's face, but Chavez is nonplussed. Side note, I'm assuming the Erie building and the docks are in the 23rd Precinct's jurisdiction. Why? That's why Elisa is always up in Xanatos Enterprises business. Because honestly, I don't know what her specialty is. You can't just say, oh, she's whatever. That's not how police departments work, especially in the big cities. 2020 moment. At this ep, we don't know how much we'll be seeing Chavez. She's a recurring character. Puck even uses a picture of her and her adult daughter as authenticity details in the vision he gave Goliath in future tense. This ep is where Puck/Owen met her, assuming they hadn't had dealings earlier. Oh, let's slow down and savor the irony of Elisa Mazza having to help Xanatos Enterprises. What's more, she's helping the weapon manufacturing arm of his conglomerate. He's no Tony Stark either. There's no end of weapons in sight. It's surprising that they'd put her on the case. She was the main reason Xanatos went to jail. Is she really going to investigate the perpetrators of this crime 100%? Yes, I realize she will, but she's only doing so because she has a real dislike for Dracon. Evidently, they have history. If they do, now you really have to look at the legal side on this. She's got a lot of interest in the parties on this case. Dracon's attorney could easily say that she falsified evidence due to her grudge against him. Xanatos could request a different detective or use his contacts to get another one, or even file a complaint against her. Note, I'm not a lawyer. I just watched Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and Matlock, so I'm kind of making this stuff up. But I'm trying to make sense. Chavez won't budge. Dracon is, quote, bulletproof. Wait, how is a gangster more bulletproof than Xanatos? See, this proves my idea that the courts convicted Xanatos partly due to grudges. Elisa doesn't understand what's so amazing about laser weapons. In this universe, high-tech weapons are everyday sights. On cue, Owen Burnett lets himself into the captain's office. We have a picture of him coming in, one hand in his pocket, looking pretty chill. He's rightly proud of the prototypes. He's probably more concerned about the competition getting them than about damage the thugs do. The Xanatos Enterprise's head of security explains that the only thing laser about the weapons is the sight. They're high collimation, charged particle beam weapons, and you can look that up on your own. I do have a link in here in the blog. The beam itself is invisible. If they malfunction, you reverse the polarity and call Geordi... Oh, wait, sorry, wrong show. Anyway, 322 guns of various sizes, styles, and power ranges were stolen. Ouch. Hope David had those insured. And here's Owen is side-eyeing Elisa, who is side-eyeing him. Elisa leaves in a huff, with Owen smiling in that I know something you don't know way he does when she's around. No doubt he's enjoying the same ironic thought about her having to help him and his boss as I was. Back to the movies. Broadway sneaks into the theater and starts ripping open pre-popped bags of popcorn. And we've got a picture of the movie theater and people inside. Albert Wesker catching a movie while on a mission to New York City for Umbrella Corp. The guy in the middle looks just like Albert Wesker. Black outfit, black sunglasses, combed back, blonde hair. And there's the pre-popped popcorn. What on earth? I have never seen that. I've been to a lot of movie theaters. If that ain't popped fresh, I am not buying it. Face off. We have a new establishing shot of, looks like the road and the front of a hotel. Elisa is at an upscale hotel that apparently is Dracon's stomping ground. She confronts him and his gang on the steps in front of God and everybody. Way to spit on his street cred, Elisa. Cop or not, you're dealing with a guy who is, quote, bulletproof as far as the law goes. Tony knows he's untouchable. He denies involvement, but brags that if he did kill her, if he was involved, he could have his associates sell off assets to raise operating capital any time. Now is a good time, actually. So, the smart-mouth gangster kid with a gang of morons can act like he's invincible right in front of her and get away with it. But Xanatos goes down under a truckload of charges. What makes Dracon so untouchable? Is he really that powerful? Are his connections that good? He was personally involved in the theft, so he's a hands-on guy. You tell me you can't get anything on a guy like that? Tony Badger don't care. There he has the high ground in that picture. He's on the steps, and she's looking up at him, quite perturbed. Maybe I'm just annoyed on behalf of Xanatos, who's still twiddling his thumbs in jail. Also meaning I don't get to see much of him, and, I just hate seeing my team lose. But you gotta give Dracon credit for knowing what he can get away with, and doing it right in front of Elisa. Gutsy. You can't do anything about it, he says. Face it, sugar. You got nothing. That's style. He overplays it a bit and comes off as cocky, but it's still amusing to see Elisa fume. He's just a businessman, honest. There he is, looking cocky in front of his goons. Dracon calls Elisa sugar. It's like he's trying to be an old-school gangster. I get the feeling he likes to be classy, or attempt to be. It's tempting to think of Dracon as a pseudo-Xanatos, what with his shoulder-length hair, his smirk, and his attitude. He's even got a right-hand man with glasses. That's where the similarity to Owen ends, though. Dracon is his own unique type of antagonist, don't be mistaken. Will he fare any better than David when he comes to face Goliath and Elisa? We'll see. Love it when somebody gives Elisa attitude for a change. There's one of his goons almost flipping her off. If he was one finger over, he would be. With friends like Broadway, After her second fail of the night, Elisa returns to her flat. It's on the top floor with the door to the roof. How convenient. Also, how expensive. I don't know how she pays for that on her salary. We meet Cagney, her cat. Cagney is gray and short hair. Cat rant. Why do you have a cat? You live in New York City in a tiny apartment. You are never home. Poor Cagney, going neurotic, cooped up in there all the time. Elisa leaves her jacket and shoulder holster on the coat hanger. I'd carry that weapon with me all the time if I lived in New York, was a cop, and had just called out a gangster that the law can't touch. Broadway glides back, shooting invisible outlaws with his finger. It's like a scene from Christmas Story, but without special effects. He lands at Elisa's. She's cooking, so he comes in the roof access door / skylight slider thing. He's still role-playing as a gunslinger. Elisa's gun is in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now he's got a toy, or so he thinks. He pulls it out of the holster. No one's taught him gun safety. He thinks it's just cool. Only point that thing at what you intend to kill. Ari is bouncing around her living room with it. According to Greg says guns are not cool. I agree. Guns aren't cool. They're very cool. Know what else is very cool? Power tools. I can spend hours in the hardware store drilling. What else? Big trucks are cool, especially when they're off-roading. Oh, and heavy machinery. Caterpillars and such. Gotta love watching the backhoe at work. And don't forget military aircraft. You know what all those cool things have in common? They're tools. They're possibly dangerous tools, but in the right hands, they are also lifesavers, literally. If nobody's using them, they just sit there and do nothing, though. Greg agrees that weapons need to be treated with respect. He deferred to comment about his personal stance on gun control, saying it wasn't important to the episode. I agree. Keep your politics out of it. One pull of the trigger by accident is all it takes. The camera pans to an empty kitchen. Kids watching might not understand right away. Neither does Broadway, but we adults just groan. And then we pan down to see Elisa laying on the floor with a puddle of blood under her. Now, at first, if you don't quite have your camera or your screen set up right color-wise, it looks like she's laying in a huge puddle of blood, but that's really just her hair in the background. There's kind of just a small pool under her hips. Being the person I am, I'm wondering how much blood we'll see. It's actually more than I'd expect on an animated series from America and from Disney. According to Greg, Disney Japan animated a larger pool of blood. The animators are used to more realistic gore like you'd find in anime. The Americans scaled it back, but not due to squeamishness. Greg didn't want the blood distracting kids. Yes, it needed to be there, but if you make it too big, it becomes a character in itself. On the other hand, it's not distracting by being too small either. Depending on where she was shot, where the bullet hit, and if the bullet exited, you could end up with a pool that size. It's early in the trauma, too. Plus, I think it was probably a 9mm, so it probably, rather than a 357 or a 45, so it hopefully wouldn't do as much damage, or even a rifle bullet that would really do damage. Broadway has the presence of mind to get her to Manhattan General Hospital. He plops her down on a gurney of an EMS team who's probably about to go off shift. Well, crap, now they have a gunshot wound to deal with. Broadway's reaction is powerful. He wraps his wings around himself and cries in the shadows. Bill Fagerbakke delivers a fantastic performance. Leverage. At the castle, the clan is setting in for their day's sleep. They reason that Broadway is at the theater. As Goliath takes his place on the highest parapet, Owen breaks the news about Elisa. How did he know? I'm assuming Xanatos put out an APB on Elisa's activities, or maybe there's a program that analyzes emergency band radio transmissions. I don't know. It's another detail that gives you a shiver of unease. When you don't know how much an antagonist knows, it's unsettling. Its rapid, reliable info acquisition makes me proud of Owen and of Xanatos Enterprises. Well done. David has learned a valuable lesson about underestimating your opponent. He's going to be semi-paranoid from now on. Actually, he's paying other people to do that for him. He's alert, but cool. Now, I don't really know how he would have known. It's not like the hospital's going to televise that or anything. And honestly, she probably didn't have much ID on her since she'd taken off her jacket and was just at home. So they probably don't even know who she is for a little while. They're going to be more interested in saving her life than figuring out her, name and address. Owen gives just the facts. Elisa has been shot. They don't know if she'll survive. There's Goliath looking pretty surprised, and Owen looking up at him. Owen is one of those people who just sort of appears behind you. Owen is as emotionless as ever, like brick wall emotionless. Anyone else would have sneered at the very least, or delivered the news with a sarcastic concern, or flat out laughed. Other antagonists wouldn't even have told Goliath, hoping she died without him getting to say goodbye. Other villains would have sent their goons in to kill Elisa in the hospital. What's going through Owen's mind at the news of Elisa's trauma alert and possible death? Maybe a little satisfaction at seeing an opponent get smacked down? I don't know. We'll see. In a forest somewhere other than Narnia, the Dracon crew is shooting trees and rocks. That's a mediocre way to show the weapon's power. Blowing up vehicles and buildings would have been more effective. Owen isn't the only one that knows what's happened to Elisa. Dracon is well aware of her condition. Yeesh, HIPAA violations are rampant in Manhattan General in the Gargverse. Dangerous to leave a gun lying around, he says. How did he know it was an accident? Honestly, how did he know there was a gun lying around? Or anything? I don't know. That's just reaching a bit. Hey, gotta test the merch. There they are with their various toys. Dracon is amused at her fate. See, that's what I expect from an antagonist. But that's why Xanatos and Owen are so unsettling. They don't fit in the antagonist mold. You will always be miles behind them if you try to use the standard villain characteristics to predict their actions. Here's Dracon aiming. Why is your right eye shut? He's got the weapon in his right hand, so his right eye should be open, and well, his left eye should be open too. But if anybody's gonna have an eye shut, it'd be the left eye. And then we've got it's a red laser beam going through a tree. I thought the beams were invisible. Like, this looks just like all the other laser beams. I guess the animators didn't get the message. Also, it's kind of hard to make an invisible beam look dramatic. According to Greg, while guns and gun safety are a major theme, the point of the episode is that repercussions are real. When characters make decisions, their actions have real-world consequences. Every action causes ripples that affect multiple people, sometimes even the whole world. This is an important lesson for kids. It was necessary in '94, but it's critical today. Our society preaches more and more that consequences don't exist, and if they do, they shouldn't. Nobody needs to take responsibility for their own actions or their own safety. Nobody needs to think about others. If you make a stupid decision and something stupid happens to you, it's obviously someone else's fault, of course. You couldn't possibly have screwed up. Even if you did, the world will write it off. Guns were a means to an end, showing that in Gargoyles' universe there are strict laws for behavior, for time travel, for choices. The writer's devotion to using the law of unintended consequences, or the LUC, is part of what makes a show about magic and mythical creatures relatable. The show is more realistic than reality regarding repercussions. Side note, the other shows that stress and exploit the LUC are Walking Dead and its spin-off Fear of the Walking Dead. And of course, Breaking Bad and its spin-off Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad is probably the chief example of unintended consequences. Speaking of The Walking Dead, we go to a scene from ER. If ER was shot in Nepal, and I don't mean Kamar Taj either. I'm gonna admit that I didn't watch this part. Medical scenes, especially operating rooms / surgery center scenes, make me yell at the screen. It can't be that hard to get scenes right. There are plenty of medical people running around. Just grab one, and they'll be more than happy to point out what's wrong. Believe me. We don't need no stinking anesthetist. No equipment needed either. There's a picture there. She's just laying on a table out in the middle of nowhere with some lights, and that's it. Okay, that is not at all how a trauma surgical suite looks. It just isn't. Suffice it to say, the cardiothoracic surgeons did their job. And here we've got a picture of the Erie building, and one of the rooms or the offices is lit up. Now, I need to match this to the outside of the Erie building, but it looks like the gold wraparound bit. You know, the part that's on the front underneath the castle there, that very shiny gold area, kind of rounded, but I could be wrong. If all those little facets are windows, my gosh, that thing has some office space. Cut to Owen in his office. This is the first time you get to see his little slice of heaven. It's like the universe had to compensate for Xanatos' huge office window, so it gave Owen's office a dungeon-style ceiling height slit. And by the way, this doesn't match up with that mirrored part of the building or that window that we just saw, so I don't know where that is. Anyway, it can't be too far away from Xanatos' office, though. Also, apparently, the rest of the castle's rooms are stuffed with robots or suits of armor or spare castle parts because Owen has to share his space with filing cabinets. Then again, maybe he likes easy access to the files. The computer system should serve the same purpose, though. I suppose he's rarely in his office. Either he's with David on business, or in his flat in the Erie building, or out on the town. I've had offices like that. I used them to store my junk mail because I was out working. If you want me to not see something, you put it in my office. Here's a picture. It's got his desk. It's got a couple lamps. I mean, it looks pretty good. It's a nice little office. Slick decor aside from the giant plant. Yeah, off in the corner. A little random. Owen is dividing his attention 80-20 between papers and gargoyles. The entire clan is packed into his office. There comes a point where you hit critical mass with weirdness exposure, and you become inured to it. It's my dream to one day be as unflappable as Owen. Goliath, you gotta do better if you want to be more interesting than papers, to Owen. There he is, leaning over Owen's desk while Owen is not looking up, but instead looking at papers. Owen explains that they don't know how Elisa was shot. She was trying to get a stolen shipment of particle beam weapons off the street. The investigation seemed important to her. Elisa is at MGH. He doesn't mention that they're Xanatos' weapons. Tricksy Blondes. Now we know a bit more about what Owen thought regarding Elisa's condition. How can I use it to get the weapons back? And maybe screw with the clan a little? Now Goliath will jump to conclusions, putting the thief as the shooter. Angry and Purple will launch into a vengeance trip against the perpetrator. Owen neglects to say who the perpetrator is. After the succinct explanation, Owen excuses himself. Meanwhile, Broadway mourns. Powerful image. There he is with his wings around him, head in his arms. Halftime. We have got a lot of pieces in place. Everybody's got an agenda, and they're about to collide. The mix of action and emotion is impressive. Elisa's life hangs in the balance, though we know she won't die. Broadway is seeing that life is no movie. Actions have consequences. How will he go on? We've got a strong theme going, too. We're seeing the unintended consequences of actions, as well as the ripple effect in other characters' lives. People take advantage of these consequences, even if they're painful for the one who caused them. This ep is really ramping up. We're locked and loaded for the next half. Read on or watch it. What did you think of it? When did you first see this episode? Comment, either here or on the actual blog. So, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.